Greetings and welcome to Health Freedom with Dr. Lane. In this video, I'm going to be answering questions. What I did was I went through the questions on the videos on the channel throughout the years, and there's going to be a series. So this is number one in that series of question and answer. I answered a lot of questions throughout the years right on the video comments and questions. Yet, if I didn't get a notification from YouTube, then I didn't answer the question. So I apologize for that. And we're answering these now. And I hope that for past viewers and new viewers and current viewers, that this will answer some questions that come up for you as well. So, question one here is, do you have any Canadian contacts for private associations, unincorporated ministries? And not really. We did for a while, but that person seems to have fallen off. We haven't had much contact with her. So we do, however, have founding documents for our Canadian neighbors. So if you're a Canadian, I think I've done a couple founding documents for Canadian residents. So yeah, we have those documents for you. Just reach out with the links in the show notes. Can I do raffles within my private association and my ministry? Well, why not? As long as it's a raffle within and for the private association members, that should be fine. They're agreeing to the activities and the products within your association. So go and have fun with that. How does this differ from a trust or a living will? Well, while there are some similarities, such as the ministry and church structure can hold and manage assets, and trusts and private unincorporated entities have trustees, there are many differences as well. So please watch the video on trusts for a more complete answer, and you can do a search for trusts. I did that when we made the trust video. I got into Black's Law and found out there were 8 pages of different kinds of trusts. So that's probably an answer that may be unique to what kind of trust you want to create. How much does it cost to change my LLC business to a PMA? Well, that depends on the state fees in your state for your LLC. What are you paying for LLC renewal in your state? With PMA Power, it is a one-time contribution for the founding documents and maybe some follow-up consulting time on occasion. Now, we do have a community, myself and another advisor, that we created called Unincorporated Liberty. I will link it below. And that community is just solely for directors and trustees of already founded private associations, unincorporated ministries, and churches. So you get to be in a community of your peers, and we have live calls and a video library and an archive and a resource library. You can ask questions and talk to each other. So it's a great community for you to come in if you already have founded one of these entities. Do you keep an active license or use one of the other options? I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in an upcoming question, but some people keep an active professional license and some do not. We want you to do what is best for you. Here's a good one. What about a commercial pilot? Having a private association, commercial right in that word leads, that's a no. But if you owned the airline and your passengers were members and you had a private airport and a private landing strip, it might be a possibility. Airspace is pretty regulated, so I don't think so at this time yet. Okay, happy to hear if you're thinking about doing this or your success in your research. If an MD does this, doesn't that doctor have to register in the state for a license in order to prescribe drugs and order labs, etc.? Yes, generally he or she does need to keep their license for ordering prescriptions and labs. Anyone that requires a license for reporting will need to keep that license. They can still take all other matters private, sort of like having two doors or different offices. And what we mean by that is the doctors that have done this and they've kept their license, maybe with an LLC or a sole proprietorship, then they can use that structure to order the labs, order the prescriptions, and then they can do all of the treating in the other door and have all the private agreements over in within the membership structure or entity. And people sign the agreement there. So that's how people are doing that. Where can I obtain templates of the founding documents? Well, apparently you can find them online, and I've never looked that up, but this is what I tell people all the time. There's people that are very educated, they're very well informed, and using AI. So I'm running across this more often now, but they're writing their own documents. And here's my answer to that. Even with the expertise of PMA Power behind me and someone who has worked in this field for 36 years and is the foremost authority in our nation behind me, providing us the verbiage and the non-statutory language for the founding documents that we deliver to you. We customize them and we make them unique to you and your situation without making them statutory. I would never attempt, after 5 years of drawing up these documents for people, I would never attempt to do that on my own. And I wouldn't just pay a small amount for templates that I just got offline, nor would I listen to ChatGPT, which has been known to be wrong. We've caught it being very wrong in this genre many times. So I wouldn't do it that way, but apparently you can find them online. Okay. Next question. I've been thinking on doing this for a long time now, but I have some questions. Would a faith-based ministry work for enveloping or including properties spread across 3 different states? So there's some raw undeveloped acreage in one state that would be awesome for camping retreats. There's a main house in another state that this person would operate out of, and then a house in another state used for outreach and meetings. That house is currently under an HOA. Would placing this house under my newly formed faith-based organization entirely remove that property from the HOA's current jurisdiction to be used entirely as the faith-based organization sees fit? Okay, lots of stuff here. A private unincorporated ministry can absolutely hold property and assets. In that way, they're similar to a trust, and they can be in multiple locations. When we're looking at things like HOAs and leases and other contracts that tend to be in the public domain, it's not so much the language that we want to put in, but the language that we want to take out. For example, let's say the house that's under the jurisdiction of the HOA, you would want to make sure that their regulations don't include things like must comply with state, local, and federal mandates in a health emergency. Otherwise, then they could attempt to take away your right to assemble, even though your founding documents say they have no jurisdiction. I hope that makes sense. We always want to read our agreements. Do people have trouble getting the bank accounts for the private associations, that unincorporated ministries, and the like? Wondering if banks acknowledge private associations And are there alternatives? Well, for most, getting that bank account is a fairly simple process. When you work with PMA Power, when meet with me, then we walk you through that process. I've only heard of a couple instances, maybe 10 or so in 5 years, where the banks gave some pushback, but we educate you on what to bring with you. And that would include typically charter and bylaws, maybe your membership agreement. We give you a code that they can look up for to go under. And we coach you on not talking too much, because then their eyes glaze over because they don't really know. But when you start saying, it's a club, it's a ministry, and we have a membership style structure, they generally are going to be pretty friendly with you, especially if you go to your bank where you already have an account, because they want to keep your business. So most of the time it's fairly simple. There's a couple states. Colorado tells people that they need to be registered, which is a lie. That's not true. Sometimes they just don't know the bankers. So you might have to do some educating or take your business elsewhere. And Old Glory Bank is also an option for you if you just are having a hard time, and that they know about private associations and unincorporated ministries, and they will work with you. Here's one. Somebody, I guess, must have thought that I said, what, a CPA, a certified public accountant? Why do you need a CPA? Do you still have to take taxes? Have to pay taxes? No CPA necessary. They're out of a job with us because it's a certified public accountant and we're private. So that's not necessary. You do need to keep good records and track your expenses and your income, your donations, your fees. And then the tax question, that's a giant question, which I support people through during the process. Obviously, I can't give any accounting or tax advice or financial advice or any of those things. Okay, if the bar is a PMA, then why do they get licenses? Definitions are important. So the Bar Association and Costco and the Private Golf Club are all types of private membership clubs and associations. Now, licensing is mostly a tool to make money and make things illegal that were never illegal in the first place. And one can go to school and gain much information and wisdom and help others without getting a license to do so, with certain contracts and agreements in place, such as the private member agreement. So the British Accredited Registry Bar Association, they have a licensing structure. If people want to be part of that club, that association, then they agree to get that license and be beholden to their rules and regulations and contracts. A great book on this topic is Legal Guidelines for Unlicensed Practitioners, and that's by Dr. Lawrence Wilson. Here's one. Someone wanted to know if they have to be a state and national prior to doing this, and the answer is no. And now the cost questions. Several questions about how much does a PMA cost. Here's one. I've been searching and looking and cannot find the cost. I have a business under an LLC and I want to change it to a PMA, and I want to start another business later that I'd definitely want under a PMA, but cannot find where to get a PMA and how much it costs. Okay, so cost is going to vary from organization to organization. And if you have a organization that is they're attorneys and lawyers, it's going to cost you a lot more, and it's probably going to be statutory. So it's really going to vary. PMA Power is one of the more reasonable and, quite frankly, time-tested places to get the founding documents. I don't really discuss price on these videos, as it doesn't give people the context for the investment and what they are receiving. A consultation, which just costs time and some research, is the best way to determine what is right for you. I will say with PMA power. It's very reasonable. The majority of people are pleasantly surprised. Okay, so I hope this helps. Remember to like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you in the next video with more Q&A.